swastika is sacred and it has nothing to do with hatred, the state of Virginia was trying to pass a law that would declare the swastika as a symbol of hate.
While the indigenous community are talking about truth and reconciliation, dharmic communities never gave up swastika.
If you go to Japan, you see the swastika all over the place in Japan, but it's nothing to do with the hate. Sugar and salt together, it's the same white powder, but in the taste different, the way to use difference. That's the same as a swastika versus Hakenkreuz.
Anyone demonizing this sacred auspicious symbol is actually doing a sorcery to themselves.
India has given two universal auspicious sacred symbols to the world. First is the Om, which is a sacred sound, and second is the swastika.
Although swastika, the word, is not used all over the world, the benevolence is global.
It represents the four goals of human life: Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. Artha being earning money and living well. Kama means enjoying life. Dharma is ethics or morality or the root, and Moksha being the ultimate goals of humans.
Both symbols, the swastika and the Nazi cross, have completely different meanings, usages, and contexts.
The root cause of the problem here is the cultural perversion of the swastika word. Anybody, whether it's a news media, whether it's a legislation, anybody cannot use the word swastika in a hate reference.
It really becomes difficult to move on with the general public.
You cannot be shy, because if you want change to happen, you have to be that change you wish to occur. Why do we have to feel the need to hide our 10,000-year culture because of a 14-year-long dictatorship?
I was bullied. I had this kid come up to me, draw the Nazi symbol on my notebook, and call me a Nazi. It was another very concerning thing that this is actually happening in classrooms. This is happening in schools all across the country, in Canada and America.
If you want to start a campaign of your own, we have a 3-step process.
Almost entirety of Jewish community organizations now stand with us on this issue. Question is that, is it possible to have Congress pass a bill making use of swastika? Hate is illegal, punishable by law.
Namaste, everyone. Swasti. Thank you for joining us today for this important event celebrating the Swastika Awareness Coalition's Swastika Proclamation, which is started in 2022. We'll go into that. But before we get started with the webinar and the panelists, I want to start off with a mantra. Om Swastina Indro Vratashravaha Swastina Pushva Vishwavedaha Swastina Raksho Arishthanevi Swastino Brahaspatir Dadatuhu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I want to welcome you all to our Swastika Proclamation webinar, which celebrates a very important occasion that happened in October of 2022. Where Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and Native American groups came together to understand the sacred significance of our symbols and distinguish them from the symbols of hate, such as Hitler's Hakenkreuz, and claim to the world that the world must respect our sacred symbols and distinguish them from symbols of hate. And while we condemn anti-Semitism, bigotry, etc., it's also equally crucial that we also distinguish and create the education and idea that Hitler's symbol of hate, which is Hakenkreuz, must be condemned, while swastika and its similar symbols that are used in different traditions must be respected, because they are symbols that are of religious nature, they're symbols that are sacred, the symbols that are auspicious, and they mean nothing but good. So that was the spirit behind the October 2022 Swastika Proclamation, which became an historic event where different groups and different spiritual leaders came together in solidarity and said that this is our sacred symbol, and we want to make sure that we continue the education efforts from today onwards. So on October 2022, this proclamation was signed, and we invited various groups to come together to sign the Swastika Proclamation, and we will be putting a link to the proclamation here. So today's webinar is going to focus on the significance of swastika, why this symbol is important for our cultures, also talking about why the proclamation itself is important, why it's a historic occasion that must be celebrated across these groups, and what we will be doing going forward. Once again, I encourage people to go to understanding-swastika.org to learn more about this Swastika Awareness Coalition and also sign the Swastika Proclamation. So if you are part of a religious group, a temple, an organization that resonates with the idea that swastika is sacred and it has nothing to do with hatred, and while we condemn anti-Semitism, anti-Hindu, and bigotry against different cultures and religions, that symbol used as a genocidal symbol is Hitler's Hakenkreuz, which is different than the sacred swastika. So my name is Nikunj Trivedi, and I'm the president of Coalition of Hindus of North America, one of the co-founding members of the Swastika Awareness Coalition. And today I have the distinct pleasure of hosting all the different panelists who are from different groups, whether they are religious groups or cultural groups from the Hindu, Buddhist, as well as Jain and Native American traditions. So I want to welcome everybody. And with that, I'm going to hand over some of the developments that have happened in Canada. Before I go there, I want to just quickly talk about why this has been a very important issue for us. Most recently, earlier this year, the state of Virginia was trying to pass a law that would declare the swastika as a symbol of hate. So many organizations, including CoHNA, got together and created an entire campaign to make sure that the language in the bill distinguishes the sacred swastika from Hitler's Hakenkreuz. So for the first time in the history of Virginia, the term Hakenkreuz, which is hooked cross, was introduced in the legislation, which is now an official bill. Just like that, there have been efforts across the US in many places, as well as in Canada, which we will talk about as we go forward. So with that, I wanted to hand it over to our CoHNA Canada President, Rishabh Saraswat. Rishabhji, welcome.
Thank you, Nikunji. And I will start with a very defiant statement, a historic statement. The statement is, to hell with the Hitler, we had the swastika first. And this statement was not given in India, not in Nepal, not in Tokyo, but in Canada in 1935. When the New York Times abandoned the historically accurate term Hakenkreuz and started to use swastika in 1933, and the popularization of the term for the Nazi symbol in the Western world started to gain momentum with the calling swastika. In 1935, in Ontario, in a small town called Swastika, they wanted to change the name to Winston after Churchill. How that is problematic is another topic to discuss later. But what happened after is very interesting. The ordinary citizens tore down the imposed sign, put up their own sign, which was swastika, and added another sign. And sign said, to hell with the Hitler, we came with our name first. Now, a century later, this fight is still going on. It happens in legislatures and classrooms, and also, most importantly, the fear of the newcomer families from dharmic traditions who are always fearful. In Ontario, another swastika, a trail called Swastika Trail, became the center of a lawsuit and conflict for a very long period of time, where CoHNA, CoHI, and other Hindu organizations and dharmic organizations came together to advocate for the right for this to remain the same. And later on, Divisional Court of Ontario upheld the right to keep the name the same as swastika. Now, swastika is woven in Canada in Montreal's historic building brickworks, in the British Columbia, in Ladysmith, the very famous old historic travelers hotel. But as we know, in 1940, with the colonial pressure, many indigenous nations gave up, signed a treaty to give up the use of swastika in their arts and in their symbol and their sacred life. And today, Canada speaks about truth and reconciliation. But still, indigenous artists who are trying to revive their culture of using swastika still get criminalized and also face backlash and sometimes get reported. But most important thing to remember is while the indigenous community are talking about truth and reconciliation, dharmic communities never gave up swastika. It is still a living, breathing symbol for us, well-being. Doesn't matter which part of the world we live in. We even name our children sometimes swastika. But it is because of this confusion, there have been human cost of this misunderstanding. For some of the example from Canada, I will give. In Quebec, an anchor in a park, which was historical, was thought about as a Nazi propaganda. Articles were written about it and police were called and all those debates happened. police was also called in Aurelia, another town, where their harmless temples markings, on a Jain traditional temple was also put in question. So much so that in a toys of a panda were removed from a Richmond's, bookshelves. And there are many other examples from across the world where, most notorious of one I remember is like how a Jewish student in Washington, D.C. was suspended for bringing a swastika from India. And he knew about it, but he, coming from the family of the victims of the Holocaust, was actually thought about as a carrying forward a symbol of hate. So this is how twisted it has got. But there is examples of the work like this coalition we are here today, and the proclamation we made, and the movement which has become across North America, carrying forward by many Hindu organizations, many dharmic organizations. Today, the Overton window has shifted to the point where Bill C9. Let me give a little bit introduction about Bill C9. Bill C9 is very good in the motive. It is a bill against the hate, but it again ends up criminalizing swastika. Now, Jewish organizations all across Canada have come forward, and when they have given the briefings to the Bill C9 Justice Committee, the Canada's oldest and North America's oldest human rights organization, B'nai B'rith Canada's Rich Robertson personally corrected the terminology, and he voiced the support for our community. CoHNA and CoHE worked together to get him to get them to backtrack on one of their petition, which was started last year, to start using the right terminology. And today, they wrote a briefing in C9 themselves correcting the Justice Committee on using of the swastika. CIJA did the same. They actually talked about the fixing the bill and using changing the Nazi swastika terminology, which is used in the Nazi swastika is the word which is used in the bill C9. Mark Sandler, another one of a really great lawyer, and on behalf of ALCA, another of a Jewish organization, did a detailed legal analysis of this book, and he talked about the historical mistranslation. That legal point of view work by Mark Sandler got so famous that almost all of the Jewish organizations have supported this. Canadian Women Against Anti-Semitism, Secure Canada, and Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation all are reinforcing these positions. So today at this point, almost all the Jewish organizations support our cause. We at CoHNA have fought many battles in this regard. What we remember is that many of the hate crime units in the police and the city councils have used, and we have worked to correct their terminologies. Without going too much into this detail, I just want to congratulate this coalition, which patiently and deliberately and consistently put through this advocacy, which is rooted in the trust and our shared commitment for Dharma. That's how this coalition has worked, and it is working to protect the hate which can be weaponized against the communities. Now, this is very important to consider here, that Jewish communities go through the real harm by usage of the Nazi symbols and the terminology. We are in support of their fight against that hate, but this fight for hate should not mean to misdirect the hate against the dharmic community. And that's what we are all working for here. With us here, many great Canadian leaders are joining today. Who have done a great work in forwarding this work. Ragini Sharma ji is here from CoHNA. Vijay Jain ji presented to the Parliament about C9. So there are many other panelists who will hear them speak about this. And with this, I will give to the next panelist, Sangeeta ji.
Yes, namaste and swasti, everybody. Thank you, Nikunji and Rishabji, for that beautiful introduction to this great webinar. I really do also congratulate the Swastika Awareness Coalition and this monumental thing they did called the Swastika Proclamation. It's really groundbreaking, and so many people have signed so far, and we just want to keep the momentum going as well. So we really encourage everybody to who hasn't signed to sign and to share the link so that other people can sign. And let's continue this, because as we see, swastika is always sacred, no matter what it looks like. If it's swastika, it's sacred. And like Rishabji said, we are in solidarity with all the victims of the Nazi Holocaust, and equating swastika with Nazism is actually antithetical to that. Because swastika means well-being. So how can we, in good faith, even associate Nazism with that? And others will go into that in more detail, I'm sure. So I'll go on to our esteemed speakers next. We'll start with Dr. T.K. Nakagaki. He's an author and president of Highway Peace and Reconciliation Foundation of New York. Thank you, Dr. Nakagaki.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay? I hope. Namaste and Swasti, and Namo Amida in the Japanese pronunciations of the, the respecting the Buddha. But yeah, see the background of it. So I'm from the representing today for the Buddhist organization, especially Japanese Buddhism. And so in Japan, of course, the manji is the words we use, often on all the temples. And if you go to Japan, of course, you see the manji or swastika all over the place in Japan. But it's nothing to do with the hate. It's really related to the temples, Buddhist teachings, Buddha's mind, or compassion, wisdom. So everything is so positive. And then, of course, non-violence too. So non-violent ahimsa is kind of a part of the very important things. And so, and then also at the same time, I've been sitting here as the author of this book, the Buddhist Swastika and the Hitler's Cross. This is a book I wrote for all of the people who wanted to talk about this swastika, but then sometimes it's hard to talk everything in one time. So that's why we need to have a backup for all the that based upon the the facts and truth. The reason why I wrote the book to begin with was this is before I went to the school of the New York Theological Seminary. Like a 2009 basically, an interfaith retreat, and at that time I was on a hate crime actually, so I expect somebody's going to talk about swastika anyway, but then to my surprise this is a very strong statement I've heard, which is the swastika is a universal symbol of hate and evil. Universal symbol of hate and evil. When you say universal, I mean, that's a little problematic. So I asked the speaker, what do you mean by universal symbol evil? And then here we are. This is the interface part. So we have a Buddhist, Hindu, Native Americans and Jains. And so they care for the swastika as a very important meaning and a sacred meaning. And then when I asked that question, the speaker said, "Oh, I didn't know about it." And he's an expert, expert of the hate crime and talking about this. And so after that, we have a little meeting among the, the Eastern tradition, Dharmic tradition, and maybe we should do something about it. So that's where everything left out. But then I happened to enter the New York Theological Seminary. And then the first thing they asked me the question was, what do you want to write about on a dissertation, basically? And then that was 1 year later. So it came up in my mind, this incident. Maybe this might be a good opportunity to really talk about it, because that was happening in the interface setting, and also this is an interface symbol in one way from the dharmic conditions. And actually, I really found out later this is an interface symbol of the human beings, or one of the symbol, like even UN and so forth. One of the symbol is permanently existed in the world, but never be able to use in our society. And so maybe that's why there are so many wars and fighting. What's the important symbol is missing in our discussion, and this is, I believe, is the most important peace symbol exists in this, in our human history, and hope So this book can contribute all those things. And there are the major parts of my book was, of course, try to understand what is the meaning of the swastika or manji, or differentiate from the Hitler's cross. And it's one of the questions that I was asked at that time was why Hitler used this symbol, basically. I mean, every time I do presentation, that was a question. So I have to deal with the swastika versus Hitler parts more. And but then it was a good thing. So because of that, I can find some of the word, in Japan, actually, we differentiate the words manji versus hakenkreuz. Hakenkreuz, more like a Japanese pronunciation, or kagi juji in Japanese translation. Kagi means hooked, juji means cross. So this is actually natural for me to know those two are different words. And but then I realized different country has a different way of differentiate. And so anyway, so this is what happening here. And Hakenkreuz versus the manji should be able to differentiate easily, because in Japan we do. You never mixed with the two symbol, even same shape, similar shape and so forth. And so it should be able to do. But the problem is like a sugar and then the salt together. It's the same white powder, but in the taste different. The way to use difference. That's the same as a swastika versus Hakenkreuz. And so if we have a two lexicon, then we can maybe make a distinction within our mind. These are two different things instead of, just like a same thing. And so that was my things. And then also my background, the linguistics. So I do that comparison of the translation of the different translation in our past and so forth. So then of course, the first translation was, clearly cross. It is a history of a cross. So that's why there's anti-Semitism connected to the Hitler's movement. And but then on the other hand, the dharmic swastika never have such anti-Semitism, and even idea of the Aryan is very different. Right? Their Aryan is of course white supremacy Aryan, which is come from also Sanskrit words. Arya is the Arya of the sacred, or Arya of noble. Noble people never kill, first of all. So the killing and then the violence is against the rule of the, Arya. So those are also part of my book, which we never really talk about yet. But yet, I think it's nice to know how the Hitler was sort of confused, or at the same time how the cross or everything's connected to whatever he did in Christian cross. Then you can understand much better understanding of the war itself too. And but those are another section of it. But so I just wanted to mention today, so that the book becomes sort of very important, like a source of stepping so many things, and I'm very, very grateful. Of course, one more important thing I forgot to mention, but my book itself is mentioned, of course, all those different swastika. And so which also means we just wanted to have an interface part of it too. So, and then on the proclamation, we have interface people, especially the one with the dharmic interface. And hopefully, this kind of proclamation could be spread to the other interface group to be able to sign it as well. And hopefully, so in New York, I guess we started a little earlier, but yet, the Jewish part of the things is still we wanted to have more influence from the maybe Canadian Jewish people, so they can talk to maybe you can suggest to the Jewish people talk to the American New York Jewish tradition as well, so we can work easily. And so I thank you very much. And then as far as So that's all that I probably can talk.
Thank you so much.
I have a children's book too, actually, now.
Okay. Oh, great.
Manji
Yeah.
for children in Japanese and
Right.
English as well.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, no, like you said, I mean, swastika itself, the word maybe it's culturally specific because it's Sanskrit, but the benevolent meaning is global. No matter what, like you said, for manji. Manji is also benevolent. So, like the fact that Nazis appropriated the hooked cross has nothing to do with all these other symbols. And thank you so much for that. We'll go to our next speaker now, grandmother Patricia Davis.
Greetings, everyone. I send you a warm heart-to-heart hug from my ceremonial fireplace to the hearth of your homes, the symbol of spiritual family love. Beloved relatives, thank you for this invitation to strengthen and protect the spiritual symbol of the swastika, to educate the general public about celebrating all the unifying principles of light and love and peace and joy within families, among relatives and members of the Dharmic community, for the very sanctity of our lives. I'm one of the signers of the Swastika Proclamation, October 16th, 2022. Today, we remember and reaffirm the intention of the spirit of collective humanity to bring forth the true meaning of the swastika in its traditional and auspicious spirit: peace, good fortune, and prosperity. This is congruent and in alignment with the Navajo creation story regarding this symbol of our sacred self within our sacred place in the whole galaxy of the universe as humane beings. I have participated in several Zoom events since 2021 regarding this reverent movement to proclaim the true meaning of this symbol within worldwide traditions throughout history. So I begin with my traditional American Indian. That's not who we call ourselves. Dene, holy people. My introduction is Patricia Anne Davis in Shia. That's who I'm called, and my Dene ceremonial name is used only in ceremony, but it does convey that I have no enemies, that I value relationships, and I have a gift for peacemaking. I'm born of the Mississippi band of Choctaw, Nchle, and into the Tachitni, Bashilchin, Chata, the Ne, Edashache, Kia Ani, Edashanala, Ado the Yin, the Neepi Yajir Nchle. I am affirming that we are all equally a precious child of Creator within creation. And while the swastika has been called, quote, whirling logs in English and in the Western literature, including AI, I will not speak to that term because it is meaningless in English. It only promotes the inaccuracies instead of conveying spiritual meaning from a different thinking system that speaks in the resonance and the vibration that we call the Nebazad, the sacred language and words of the holy people, our primordial ancestors. And so I stay in my lane and I do not allow spiritual cultural perversion and erasure. First, we must understand, and I'm going to give a little detail here because we are not really visible into the general public. In the creation story, the creation story, we came into physical manifestation into a body as, not into, but we came as a body of light because we are a spark of divinity within a greater light. And to simplify here, everything was created with purpose and order, and all spiritual teachings for living the loving way as a way of life to serve in the world by making decisions for the greatest good, for the greatest number of people, were placed within the four directions. And for the four directions is this swastika symbol. And so within the natural order laws. I'm going to say clockwise, sunwise, with the intention, with conscience, with moral reasoning, with holy thinking, with clear and congruent thinking, and strong visionary planning. So I'm going to describe natural order law that governs us all equally, that this symbol represents to us, that you see in the art and woven rugs and sand painting. East, south, west, north, clockwise, sunrise, midday, sunset, midnight, and the four corn pollen footsteps, child, youth, adult, parent, elder, grandparent, and the four jewel nations, white shell jewel nation, white people, turquoise jewel nation, red people, abalone shell jewel nation, yellow Asian jewel nation, jet and obsidian jewel nation, black people. We're all born in holiness and wholeness within the natural cycles of life, and no one can be born higher or lower than another person. And then first woman and first man and first girl and first boy travel into the physical plane upon Mother Earth from their diamond crystal soul in their light body, and they were clothed in mountain dirt, their physical body, mountain dirt, we're calling zithlej, which means spiritual strength. And 72% water filled their earth body. Fire became the fire. The origin of fire became the fire of life in temperature in the physical body. And then the first four family clans were created by white shell woman, and procreation began without incest and the denigration of the divine feminine. This is very important. The lineage of divine feminine was not derogatory and perverted. This is why we are matrilineal, and we do not have male domination, female submission in hierarchy, patriarchy, or matriarchy. I'm describing this symbol in detail. The perfect love within the Creator's sacred breath gave them life, the indwelling life and spirit and resonance and vibration and movement and voice. They came into existence with their inherent sovereignty, with Creator within creation, synchronistically and synergistically within the environment of nature and all living beings. This is the creation story of how the yin, the ne, of how we are all a precious child of Creator within creation. And that is the exact spiritual meaning of swastika symbol. Notice I use the word yin. In Sanskrit, it's the same as deva. It is the very galaxy we all exist within. No person can exist outside of or separate from what I have transmitted here from Dene or Navajo oral tradition passed from one generation to the next. We know where we come from. We know who we are. We know how to travel upon a prayerful path, upon the spiritual life journey from birth to old age. And we know where we are going because it is not in the inverse thinking system. It is in the indigenous affirming thinking system. We know that in or out of the body, we forever remain within the perfect love and peace of Creator's sacred breath, the yin, in the eternal cycle of life, to correct our mistakes, to learn and to understand the oneness that we all exist within. Hojo. Therefore, we must do our part to inspire the truth about our interrelatedness and interconnectedness within the web of life, the etheric network or Akash. So anyone demonizing this sacred auspicious symbol is actually doing a sorcery to themselves by intentionally inverting it into leading in such a way to lead people astray, which causes delay. and delay causes suffering. It is not, quote, a whirling log motif or design. It is an organic, energetic symbol of our very eternal life itself. However, the Navajo, along with other tribes like the Hopi, Apache, and Tohono O'odham, voluntarily banned. Well, we were all pressured also too by federal government and Bureau of Indian Affairs so these tribes voluntarily banned the use of the swastika symbol in their artwork in 1940 due to its malevolent and maladaptive appropriation by the Nazi Party in Germany. This decision was made to protest the Nazi atrocities and to separate their traditional symbol away from the inverse hate-filled meaning now associated with it in Western culture. Representatives of these tribes signed a tribal proclamation on February 28, 1940, formally renouncing the symbol's use in their weaving, basketry, and art forms, and this was to protest and separate from the inverted meaning of their spiritual symbol. And the tribes saw that the appropriation of their sacred symbol as a desecration. They made a public protest against the Nazi regime's intentional violent sorcery actions. By renouncing it, they were making a clear statement against the Nazis and separating their own cultural meaning. And so the symbol itself that you find in the sand painting, and the sand painting is for healing, to lift off the lies and the suffering and of humanity. It's to lift it off of us with truth, and so that symbol actually on the physical plane is our 4 sacred plants, which I will not go into detail here, and then those sacred plants that are coming from Mother Earth through the earth, water, fire, and air, and held in intelligent coherent in the Akash that is reflected from the microcosm to the macrocosm in the very galaxy itself. Thank you for this opportunity to educate about the holy people's knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, my spiritual family and relatives.
Thank you very much, grandmother. That was beautiful, and it's so interesting to see so many connections between the Dharmic communities and the American indigenous communities. And there are some questions that we'll address, some of them later on at the end of the discussion. For example, we'll learn probably through the course that Hitler didn't even use a swastika, so there's no matter of using a reverse swastika. And actually, sometimes the Hitler's Hakenkreuz can look exactly like a swastika. It's not about appearance at all. So and Hakenkreuz is a hooked cross, which can be found in European churches as well. So there's no link to the swastika or India, etc. But we'll get into that as we go through. And please do put more of your questions, they're great questions, in the Q&A. Thank you so much. Next, we'll go to Dr. Suresh Shenoy. He is from he's on the advisory board of the United States Hindu Alliance, USHA, which is one of the founding members of the Swastika Awareness Coalition. Namaste, Dr. Suresh.
Namaste to you all. My name is Suresh Shenoy. I'm a member of the USHA Advisory Board, that is United States Hindu Alliance. Yes. Since the time is limited, I will go directly to the points. We applaud this important Swastika Proclamation. Why is it important? I will discuss that in brief. Right at the beginning, the proclamation states, we stand for truth, mutual respect, and world peace. So why it's important? Yeah, these are the points. In the resolution part, it says it lays emphasis on a comprehensive educational process for all. My work in the last few decades has been in the education process, so I will mostly speak on this topic and why this proclamation provides us an opportunity for educating the general public, not just the scholars. I compare the education process to an arrow. This proclamation is the hardened tip of the arrow. So this proclamation is a tip, is the tip of the arrow which penetrates. This arrow is meant for educating. It is not meant for harming anybody. Basically, we will launch this arrow, and the purpose is to educate, and the proclamation provides the tip. The tip helps us to address and reach not only the scholars and the academics, but the proverbial common man on the street. Proclamations like this are an opportunity for us to educate, not merely to redress a grievance. I felt this grievance in the 1970s. I was a young graduate student in the US when I watched a documentary about the Nazis. The documentary connected the ruthless projection of power of the Nazis to the Roman Empire. They said, they drew inspiration from the Roman Empire. Then the documentary went on to search the Nazi symbol, which it consistently called swastika. The crew showed various representation of the sacred symbol in India and in Tibet. To me, it was clear that this was a misdirection to sever any connection to the Hakenkreuz, which is the sacred symbol of the Christians. Now, I'll come to some important points. India has given two universal auspicious sacred symbols to the world. First is the Om, which is a sacred sound, and second is the swastika, which is a visual symbol. So Om it's a sound symbol. It is not a visual symbol, it's a sound. U, M, followed by the silence. So the four folds of Om. Similarly, they are sacred to all Indians, specific to India. Well, swastika has been discovered by many civilizations outside India too. Point to note here, both have four quarters, or as I like to call, four folds, because these are folded one inside the other, which establishes their equivalence. So Om on one side and swastika on the other side. Because there are four folds, there is an equivalence between them. They represent the four folds of existence. This fourfold structure of Om has been discussed exhaustively in the Mandukya, the Gaudapada Karika, and Shankara's commentary on both of them. This establishes Om as complete, coherent, concise, and universal. This fourfold structure encompasses the whole of cosmology and whole of soteriology, or in other words, in Sanskrit terms, Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Shastra and Moksha Shastra. Both are, that's what makes it complete. Whereas the scientific process discusses only cosmology. They have no soteriology, or there is no Moksha Shastra in science. That's why it's incomplete. We can similarly present the four quarters of swastika as the complete fourfold structure. A discussion on will be of interest mostly to scholars and academics. A discussion on the swastika will be of interest even to the proverbial man on the street. That's because he's familiar with the topic, whereas Om is a topic that he's not familiar with. The methodology of the fourfold structure is an excellent comprehensive tool for our educational process. This is the arrow that we need to launch, while the Swastika Proclamation and proclamations similar to that provide penetrating tips. Education is not meant for conversion. We have no history of that. But for establishing the truth and universal peace and harmony. In the broad vision of Swami Vivekananda, harmony among religions of the world and harmony between the worldviews of science and religion. So that's all I want to say today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suresh ji. That was beautiful. And it's like you said, a lot of times in our culture, sound trumps appearance. So even if a swastika, for example, may not look exactly familiar to you, or there may be conventional ways of drawing swastika, that way is not necessary for us to be swastika, because swastika, the word itself, is auspicious, regardless of what it looks like. And, although swastika, the word, is not used all over the world, the benevolence is global. We'll go to our next speaker now. We'll please go to Dr. Richa Agarwala next. She's from Chinmaya Mission. She's the outreach coordinator there. So thank you so much, Rika. Dr. Agarwala, namaste.
Namaste. I would like to share my screen.
Okay, great.
Okay. So some of what I'm going to say, first of all, thank you for the invitation and to talk about how we live swastika in Chinmaya Mission and how we bring the information about swastika into our daily lives. So swastika, as has been presented, is an ancient and sacred symbols for Hindus as well as other dharmic religions. It's mentioned in Rig Veda, which is the oldest scripture known to man and at least 7,000 years old, if not more. And its meaning itself, it's a Sanskrit word which has its root in su and asti, which means good or well, and to be, to exist. So swastika means that which brings good luck or well-being for all. And we see it all over the place in Eastern countries, in our temples, in front of our houses, or commercial places, everywhere. And as mentioned earlier, the orientation is not that significant for us. It is the meaning associated with the word swastika, as well as inside our houses. So both outside and inside, as decorations, as a way of invoking, symbolism with Ganesha. All of these are sacred usages of swastika in our culture and religion for the longest of times. However, the misappropriation, and we have to stress the mis part of it also, because we were never asked if the swastika could be used for the purposes it was done in the recent past 100 years, which was the anti-Semitic use. And some of what I'm saying is a repeat, but sometimes it helps to see things visually, so which is why I'm doing this slide presentation. The context from where the Hakenkreuz was lifted was the Hitler's exposure to Hakenkreuz in the Benedictine monastery. So this symbol is where he got the inspiration to use something like this for his flag when he was designing the flag. He had no regard for Indians or Aryans, or as he liked to call them at the time. In fact, he was quoted as having said that he really was impressed by the Britishers, how a few thousand of them were able to control hundreds of thousands of those heathens. So that was the level of denigration he had for India and Indians. So there's no way he would have used one of our symbols to represent his army. His inspiration came from the Benedictine monastery. And the link is also very clear in the German Christians' root in the flag that was used and is available for anyone to see in the Berlin Museum. So you can see what later became the Nazi symbol was present in the Christian context much before it became the true symbol of Nazis, which is also present in in one of the museums. So you can see how it transformed from Hakenkreuz to something that was German Christian to something that became the Nazi symbol later. And the mistranslation has already been spoken about, how Hakenkreuz, not in the first translation, but in the second translation of Mein Kampf, is when it was made from Hakenkreuz to swastika, and when there's no relation between the two. So with this, we want to see what actually is swastika. There are many symbolisms for it. A couple of them were talked about already. But the one that's most relevant for us in our human lives is that it represents the 4 goals of human lives. As Artha, Kama, Dharma, and Moksha. Artha being earning money and living well. Kama means enjoying life. Dharma is the ethics or morality or the root that will sustain our actions in the long term. And moksha being the ultimate goals of humans. And in terms of the symbolism, you see that the line for Artha and Kama, they are leveling off, which is signifying the limitation and temporary nature of material pleasure. Whereas the line that is connecting Dharma and Moksha are open-ended, signifying the infinite nature of spiritual bliss. So our goal is, okay, we have to have some level of comfort and sustenance, but that's only the current situation you may be in. Our goal is to become more dharmic over time, to sustain our actions in a dharmic way, and then ultimately try to reach moksha. And this is not something that is for only Hindus. It's really, even though the philosophy is a Hindu philosophy, it is really universal and timeless, which really says that the entire creation emerged from rest in and will dissolve in its one source of all beings. And by experiencing the connection with the source, anyone can be free of sorrow. So it's universal because it's applicable to anyone, and anyone can be free of sorrow. And free of sorrow is one way of looking at how we can have moksha in our lives now. It doesn't have to be something only after the next birth or no birth or anything like that. And this is also reflected in one of the prayers that is most commonly recited in many of the interfaith gatherings, where we say that Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, may all be happy. Again, the stress is on all and happiness. Anyone can be happy if we are following this philosophy and trying to live, try to be in the well-being for everyone. So that by being dharmic, you can introduce and stay in the state of well-being. So may all be happy, healthy, see what is auspicious, and may none suffer. So these are prayers for anyone's and everyone's well-being and free from sorrow. So in terms of how we can get there, so moksha here and now, not just some far-off place, it is, as was mentioned in the philosophy, by seeing the same connection to the one source, or seeing the same divinity in all beings, which is also our true nature. So by realizing our true nature, we can be happy always. And if you define moksha or liberation as free from sorrow, then the goal of being happy always and not just here sometimes is what we are aiming for. And to reach this in Hinduism, there are multiple paths available for people with different inclinations. So since people have different inclinations, a single path is not sufficient. We do have multiple paths available in Hinduism. For example, the path of knowledge or Jnana Yoga, where we study and practice scriptures. The path of Raja Yoga or path of meditation, where it's a disciplined practice. And Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion for love and surrender to God. So these are all the various ways in which we can connect with the same divinity so that we can stay in a state of well-being, which is swastika. So specifically in Chinmay Mission, what we do is we have programs for all ages so that they can grow and understand the philosophy of Vedanta, which is really the science of living. For all different ages, right from babies before they are born, even to toddlers, to preschool, kids who are differently abled, balvihars, youth, young adults, and seniors. So all ages are covered by different programs, with the ultimate goal, as stated earlier, is state of well-being, which is swastika, reflected as being happy always, which is manifesting swastika. And this is also the motto of Chinmay Mission, to give maximum happiness to maximum people for maximum time. So if we are able to live happily always, regardless of circumstances, we are living as a good life, a swastik life. And that's our goal as Hindus, as people who are studying the scriptures, to reach that state. And I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Chichaji. That was wonderful. And like we said, the swastika itself is auspicious no matter what. There might be different meanings and everything, but it's not limited by things like orientation, direction, color, dots, tilt, and all these things that people often spread misinformation about. Next we'll go to Jaina group, Mr. Vijay Jain and Ms. Riya Parekh ji. Both of them are from the Jaina group. Ms. Vijay ji is the president of the Vishwa Jain Sangatan in Canada, and Riya ji is the director of community relations with the Young Jains of America. So please, on to you. Thank you.
Thank you. should we get Riyaji first? Because the way we planned was that Riyaji will talk about the importance and then I will talk about the advocacy.
Sure. Yes. Riyaji,
So
are
let's
you there?
take Riyaji first
Yes.
if she's okay.
Absolutely. Great. Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect. Namaste and Jai Janendra. My name is Ria, and I'm with the Young Jains of America. We're incredibly honored to be here today alongside members from all different faiths and communities to speak about the significance of the swastika, in particular for the Jain faith. And I also want to extend our gratitude to CoHNA for organizing this important event, for raising awareness around the meaning of the swastika, and for their continued advocacy around religious freedom. We're also grateful to be here in support of the Swastika Proclamation, which helps promote mutual understanding, respect, and education around this symbol. And so for us, the swastika is a deeply auspicious symbol that is found in all places, including our homes and books and temples. And it represents the four states of existence and the cyclical nature of life and death. The swastika symbolizes the spiritual journey towards liberation and is a reminder that every living being can achieve spiritual progress and attain happiness and enlightenment. And so this symbol is also very ingrained within our daily rituals. Traditionally, we draw the swastika using rice, which is a symbol of purity to reflect the auspiciousness of the swastika. And it's also used in a variety of pujas and prayers to represent our core Jain values. Not only is it a religious symbol, but it also holds a lot of cultural significance for us as well, as many Jains use the swastika as a marker of good fortune in our homes and pass it down as a name for our children. While it holds great importance to the Jain tradition, the swastika has often been mistaken for the Nazi symbol of the hooked cross. And in referring to the Nazi cross as the swastika, it's become wrongly conflated as a symbol for hate and violence. And so this harms our religious and cultural expression of the swastika as a representation of peace and nonviolence, or ahimsa. The Swastika Proclamation is also a critical step in being able to clarify the meaning of this word and symbol. And so we're proud to celebrate this proclamation, which honors the sacred value of the swastika while condemning acts of hate and violence against all groups. It highlights how both symbols, the swastika and the Nazi cross, have completely different meanings, usages, and contexts, and why this difference matters for our religious freedom and expression. We hope to continue to support this work and advocate for the swastika as a symbol of auspiciousness. And thank you once again to CoHNA for giving us the opportunity to represent the Jain faith and highlight the importance of the swastika. And I'd like to pass it on to Vijay as well to speak more about his advocacy work around this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to talk about swastika word as well as swastika symbol and advocacy. And I thank you, CoHNA Group, as well as all the dharmic traditions coming together and creating this proclamation and signing it. And as at the beginning of the talk, I think Nikunji did mention some of the achievements in US as well as here in Canada. So these are really good, and I think we all together making a good progress. Um, which was, I would say, that a decade back was not even possible. So I mean, it's a moment of, I think we all should congratulate ourselves of the achievements what we have done so far. I will talk about what we achieved, where we had direct involvement, and then what should be our approach also. I'm just giving a perspective here. So a little bit about myself. I think at the beginning of the talk, yes, I'm right now sitting in a temple, a Jain temple, where I was president some time back, and from last 5 years, I have been working in the Hindu advocacy. For me, I mean, Hindu, Jain, it's a one dharmic. I call it as a basically dharmic civilization. We all are part of that, and we are working towards kind of like doing advocacy for our civilizations together. For me, Hindu, Jain, I don't see much difference as well as it's just a matter of different darshans, but that's how I take it. In terms of swastika, I would say it as it's a symbol or the word is important to our civilization together. It's Sanskrit word. Sanskrit belongs to all of us, right? So sometimes people do use the word Hindu swastika when they try to oppose, let's say, Nazi swastika, but I would say we should refrain from all those wordings. We should say swastika is a Sanskrit word, and is auspicious to all of us. Some of the achievements were we did advocacy together, and we got some good success. Wherever the swastika word was used in head references, we could work with the different people and try to replace the swastika word from head references and replace it with the Nazi Hakenkreuz. Peel Police, Saskatchewan Premier, where we worked with him and we asked him to change the wording, as well as B'nai B'rith Canada. I think earlier Rishabh mentioned about that. Whitby City Council, where I did delegation, Durham Regional Council, where I did the delegation, and we could get it removed from their motion to ban the swastika, and then they changed it and they removed the word swastika from head references. Some of the thing I put on the right side in the red font, because where these are the achievements in Canada where I was not directly involved. However, we as a together we could achieve this. The Montreal Police, I think, CoHNA worked closely with the Montreal Police to get the swastika word removed from the head references. Even I think Rishabhji mentioned about the swastika trail name, which was kind of a they tried to change it, but then I think you guys worked and we didn't let them change the name then. I put under the Bill C9. Bill C9 is a kind of a, I would say, 90% is success because the bill does call the banning Nazi Hakenkreuz, but then they use the word also known as Nazi swastika. So, I mean, the good part is that they use the word Nazi Hakenkreuz, which is, I would call it as a good win for all of us together. But of course, we need to work on to remove that Nazi swastika word from that head references, and we all are working towards that. Further to that, I think sometime back, I think October 30th, we made a presentation in the Justice Committee, Parliamentary Justice Committee, and they took it. We made our. I was a witness there, and I made a delegation, and we did a submission also there. It's available on the Parliament website, where we gave all the examples. They received it very well. We hope they will remove the word swastika from the head references there too. And then we submitted a letter there, which was co-signed by 80 plus organizations. Many organizations are still signing it, and the letter was pretty much like about with reference to the bill to remove that word. In that, yeah, I think more. I think it's the link I put it there, where all the organizations. There are some Jewish organizations. There are one or two. I think there are Muslim organizations too, who has signed our letter. So it's a good. I mean, we are using this opportunity to create awareness too. I think I talked about the Durham Regional Council, where a motion which was passed earlier to ban Nazi swastika, but then we worked with the city council to amend the motion to remove the word swastika from there. And that's I just put a screenshot there where it was unanimously passed. And I think there were 2 or 3 councillors. They were from the Jewish background, and of course it took a time to convince them, but we educated them and we were quite successful there too. Now, I think achievements are one part. There is one more thing I would like to add here is swastik symbol is important to all of us. I think there's enough talked about that, right? As well as swastika word is also important. And the way I look at that, and from last 5 years when I'm involved in advocacy, our perspective of is swastika word as such. I mean, we use in our many of our gurus, the Bhattarakji, Jain Bhattarak, where they put the word swastik in beginning. Swasti Shri, Bhattarakji. There are some Bhattarak we put the name swasti as a kind of respect to them. Also, swasti word we use in our prayers where we offer flowers to the deities, and we use the word swasti there too. So swasti word as such extensively used in our prayers. Swastika word is used in my shop in India as a name swastik. And so it is important. I see the root cause of the problem here is the cultural perversion of the swastik word. So Hitler, I mean, did he use swastika? We know that he used Hakenkreuz. He was inspired. His anti-Semitism was inspired by. It was not inspired by. Let me put this way: our Hindu dharmic civilization. It was inspired by something else. Correct. So he did not use the word swastika. Swastika is our word, and we should stop the cultural perversion of Swastika word. I know we all are working towards that. And in my the current member of parliament, who is a current chair of the Justice Committee, whom I met a week back. So there I could very well explain, and where he could very much accept it. I'll just give example to draw analogy quickly in 1 minute. The word powwow. Powwow word is very sacred to indigenous tradition. But when I came to Canada 15 years ago, I saw that people were using the word powwow like a casual meeting. And I did not know that how important is indigenous culture. I started using the word powwow like office casual gatherings. And then one of my direct reportee, who was from First Nations group, he once I was using the word power quite often, and then he took me separate, and he told that if we use the word power in a casual way, it's very offensive to him. And that time it opened my eyes that how much important that word is to that particular tradition. And from there, we can take the analogy for our swastika word. Swastika word itself is very, very auspicious to us, and we have to stop the cultural perversion, meaning that anybody, whether it's a news media, whether it's a legislation, anybody cannot use the word swastik in a hate references. And that's how we have been having discussion with lawmakers or all the different groups, and we have to work with the media also to stop them using the word swastika in their in the hate references. If we go on that route, I feel that we will get a good success. I think that's I would like to add here. Other than that, I think anything more questions, I'm ready to take it. Other than I think there are more speakers lined up, so I won't consume more time. Thank you for giving me time, and yes, we all are in this together. And thank you for all the dynamic traditions group for putting the proclamation together. For us, we are always supportive of any such initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you, Vijayji and Riyaji. That was very interesting. And yes, we're all in this together. We're all fighting for our religious rights. These are civil rights issues, if you think of it, because this is not freedom of religion if we're barred from using our any symbol, including swastika. Like, our religious rights are at stake here, and that's why the proclamation is so important. And like you said, the word swastika is important. That word is crucial. There's no Nazi swastika. And with that, we'll go to our next speaker, Dr. Ragini Sharmaji. Dr. Ragini Sharmaji is the president of the Canadian Association for Hindu Heritage Education, CoHNA. She has been a partner with the coalition from day one, an ardent supporter of the proclamation and the SAC. So we'll take it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you. It's amazing to be with this group. This is, I think, a very crucial moment for our group here, working together, like Vijay said. I want to congratulate Nikunj, Dr. Nakagaki, Usha, and all other, and Grandma Patricia for making this movement. As we move on with our work, we realize how important this proclamation is. And, several years ago, like we said in 22, before that, I've been working with school boards and police and all that on addressing this issue. And I found that referring people to that website, I think, was really, really helpful. So I encourage all of you, whenever you're talking about this matter, please refer to the Understanding Swastika website, because it has many, many videos, and it has written material about the history of how this misinformation got out. So this is a huge resource. I remember when I was insisting on using the swastika in a handbook at the Toronto District School Board for Hindu Heritage Month, they objected to that inclusion. And I immediately referred them to the Understanding Swastika website, and everything went smoothly. So I think, it's a very well curated website. So let's use that. I just want to mention how a few things, having coming towards the later part of the presentations, that we should not use the word misrepresentation when we're talking about misappropriation. This word misappropriation is often used for Hitler, misappropriating, or the Nazis. I don't think we should use that word misappropriate. There is no appropriation. This is a complete misrepresentation, mistranslation. So I think that word can convey as somehow that, the swastika word was used. So I'd caution people not to use that respectfully. In terms of, our latest work, I've been really, really working towards educating the Jewish community. It's been, we've had mixed success. I would say that while we do have a lot of the Jewish organizations on board in significant ways, like the B'nai B'rith, I'm so glad that I contacted B'nai B'rith and we got this ball rolling, and they have been on board. This is really good work. But we saw in the later part even B'nai B'rith stepping back, and then we didn't react, and they're back on board. I mean, I'm telling you this insider information. There have been some Jewish supporters who have backtracked and have deleted their posts in support of Swastik. So, the need to educate the Jewish community is very big, because until the Jewish community supports us, and we get their go ahead to not use the swastika, it really becomes difficult to move on with the general public. So I think our work with the Jewish community is much needed in the larger community. I am meeting with an important rabbi, with Mark Sandler. I have an upcoming meeting with them. I intend to approach this subject and make all the points that you all have made. Dr. Richa's presentation was beautiful. A simple presentation like that can go a long way to educate people. Yes, Bill C9 definitely sees the swastika as a universal symbol of hate and evil. And, in my submission to the committee, I have said how hurtful and completely unacceptable this burden of Nazi Holocaust to be put on the Hindu community. I think we have found our voice. I think we used to, as Hindus and Jains and Buddhists, we were being too, giving them space so that we don't impose our, we self-censored ourselves so much. But it's so heartening to see young people here, our indigenous partners here. We are now gathering steam, and the proclamation is so important in this way. And I intend to present this proclamation to the rabbi. He's one of the leading rabbis in Toronto, and to Mark Sandler. We have been able to have an impact in the Jewish community. I read the impact statement by Rich Richardson from B'nai B'rith. And did you know he used what he says in there? I implore you to not use the swastik. That really brought a tear to my eye, that he is using this word implore in his official statement to the legislators. And Bill, and Mark Sandler also very clearly has said. So I think we have a great win, but at the same time, we had one organization, a Jewish organization, who submitted a letter to the Bill C9 legislators saying, repeating the lie that Hitler used the word swastik for his hate symbol. So, we have a long way to go to education. I just want to say again, the proclamation is a powerful tool to get people on our side. It's even if we meet some people and they say, yes, we support you, to have them sign the proclamation will be a very important gesture on their part to express their solidarity. So I think we should continue to refer people to the site and get more people to sign. I do intend to get some Jewish organizations, and Rishabh, you and I, and we're all working together on this. And I want to thank you all for bringing us together. We do need to give this a greater push. Thank you so much for inviting me.
This is a mutually beneficial correction if made. Anybody who is anti-hate, anti-Nazi should want this. So, like you said, interfaith education is so important. Nobody who is anti-hate or anti-Nazi should want well-being to be associated with Nazism, right? And it's not a matter of reclaiming anything since we never lost it. We never gave up swastika. So this is just a matter of, if anything, Hitler misappropriated the hooked cross, right? So that narrative has to be changed. Thank you so much for that. I think we'll go to our next speakers now. They're two Hindu high school students, Abhimanyu Gupta ji and Meera Trivedi ji. And Abhimanyu ji is a Associate Director of Policy and CoHNA and the CoHNA Youth Action Network Board member. And Meera ji is a Public Policy Intern and CoHNA Youth Action Network member. So I'll give it to you two. Thank you.
Namaste and swasti, everyone. Thank you for being here today to listen to us speak. Now, I'll just start off for a little bit so that way Meera can pick up from where I left off at. But I don't want to bore you guys with the history of the swastika. I don't want to bore anyone with repeating information that has already been said. Instead, the perspective that Meera and I are going to be taking this at is a perspective as to how you can make actual change in your community. Us being second-generation Hindu Americans that were essentially born, raised in this culture, in American culture, we often saw that our own culture was misrepresented. And for me, this really struck when I was in AP World History, and I saw the way, or even AP Human Geography, and I saw the way that they taught this was the guy saw the way that they taught our religion. And from there, what I did is I followed with a simple escalation pattern. I emailed teachers and I talked to different professors at my school. I talked with my school administration. I talked with my Hindu Students Council that we have at our school to formulate a plan. Because at the end of the day, you have to remember that this is about your First Amendment right. We may recognize the origins of the swastika, but what are we doing to actively prohibit this maladaptation of it in today's American curriculum, in today's Western curriculum, today's educational curriculum? What are we doing to actively prohibit the brainwashing of our next generation into almost feeling ashamed of their own religion, into almost feeling ashamed of their own culture? So the number one thing I want to convey to all of you is that speaking up for your own rights isn't just something that you have to do alone. You can build a community. I was able to build a community of members who supported me, and we took that all the way up to administration in order to get the curriculum changed. In fact, the teachers were even on our side after we decided to educate them and after we chose how to educate them. So the very first thing I want to encourage you guys is to have dialogue, to have that sort of two-way communication and to really open it up. But you cannot be shy, because if you want change to happen, you have to be that change you wish to occur. And this also matters because the swastika predates Nazism by over 10,000 years. The Rig Veda has a mandala where it goes Swastina Indro Vriddasrava, that mantra that you heard us chant in the beginning of this presentation. So why do we have to feel the need to hide our 10,000-year culture? Because of a 14-year-long dictatorship, as was previously mentioned. Now, the next thing I want to say is that every school is going to be different. I know Meera had a very different experience with this than I did. If you wanted to quickly jump in and talk about your experience, Meera.
Yeah, sure. So I actually got the change started in my middle school. I was in 8th grade American history, and I was learning about World War II, and I heard my teacher use the word swastika when referring to the Nazi symbol. And what surprised me wasn't the fact that my teacher used that, was that everyone in the class agreed. Nobody spoke up. And I knew the symbol, as well as many other Hindu students in my class, knew the symbol as a symbol we use in our mandirs, in our homes. When we buy a new car, that's the symbol we place on it to bless it. But nobody spoke up. And that's kind of what sparked something in me. So I go up to my teacher and I talk to her, and she tells me that I'm actually not the first student to bring this up to her. She said that students know the word swastika is associated with that symbol, so I'm just going to keep using it, despite debating with her. So I said, okay, let me send you an email after class, and then we can discuss after. So I did the same thing in another classroom, and then I'm like, okay, so clearly these teachers don't care enough. So I need to gather more students. I need to raise the volume, basically. So I talked to my fellow students and my fellow classmates, and I basically got about 14 crucial students to back me up on this and to speak out. Then we went up to our guidance counselor and we told her about it. Weeks went by and a lot of emails were sent on from my side, but she just, I guess, didn't care enough. So we finally went up to the vice principals and principal, and after much perseverance, many emails, many run-ins at their office, many going up to them, we finally got a meeting with them and the director of ELA and social studies for our district. And through a 1.5 hour presentation, we were able to convince him to amend the curriculum. And so that by that time, the end of the school year rolls around. So I'm at my middle school graduation and I get called up for an award for advocacy and community awareness. And I realized after my principal told me that I actually got this award because I spoke out against the misinformation that was being spread. And anyway, this year starts, this school year, and this past Wednesday, actually, the director and I set up a meeting with 25 teachers, and we taught them what I provided the information and the student testimonials, and we taught them about the difference between the swastika and Hakenkreuz and how to teach it in a classroom setting, and that the swastika isn't a Nazi symbol. It wasn't used by the Nazis, and how to make students know that so there isn't bullying going on. Because honestly, personally, I was bullied. I had this kid come up to me, draw the Nazi symbol on my notebook, and call me a Nazi. So it was another thing. It was another very concerning thing that this is actually happening in classrooms. This is happening in schools all across the country, in Canada and America. And this is something that needs to be changed. So what I want to say to all high school students, speak out. There's no harm in speaking out. Voice your opinion. The school board wants to hear your opinion. They're representing you. They're representing your education. They want to hear from you. So speak out. And you're not going to get yelled at. You're not going to get bashed. You'll get awarded. It's different in many school districts, but definitely speak out. I encourage all high school students to do this.
In fact, I have a 3-step process for speaking out. As Mita said, you won't get backlash, but there is no guarantee that anything will change. But remember, change is that like an avalanche. I was able to start that change because I've been working on this. I remember in 8th grade, we had our Holocaust unit in 8th grade English. And my teacher put up a sign that said swastika. And I corrected her, and I even made a new sign for her, and she took down her swastika sign and put up the Hakenkreuz sign. This very teacher was present in those meetings with administrators 3 years later when I was debating this thing for my building curriculum. And now I'm preparing to take this to the entire school district to change it from kindergarten through 12th grade to be taught as Hakenkreuz and about how it was misappropriated as a swastika by the New York Times in the 1930s. But if you want to start a campaign of your own, we have a 3-step process. The first one is to start small and start local. Identify the specific issue, gather documentation, talk to your friends, teachers, and trusted staff. It's important for you to have allies because no war can be done alone. You will always need someone to back you up, and it's so important to have these people behind you at all times. The second part is to do the research. You are going to be absolutely slammed with questions whenever you are advocating for yourself because people believe they know your stuff better than you know it. So they're going to try to entrap you within such a case in order to be able to prove you wrong, and then be like, no, see, you don't know this, so therefore your entire argument, your entire claims are then seen as invalid. So you want to arm yourself with research. personally, what I did is I created one-pagers. I passed them out to every single person at that meeting. And then I even read from different academic journals. I provided work citations. And I told them that you can argue with me on this topic all you want, but I have given you academic resources here. So to deny my own point of view is to not only deny students' lived experiences, but it is to also deny the actual history of what happened. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to create a circle of influence. I am the president of the Hindu Students Council at my school, so we did this as an initiative on behalf of our Hindu Students Council. But it's so important that you have student organizations such as a CYAN or an HSC or a Dharmic Student Association, a Jain Student Association, or Native American Student Association at your school that you can get support from, because you want to be able to show this as a community project. And then your third and final step is step into it. Do what you have to do. Because I'm going to be quoting the Gita here, but it goes, Karmani eva adhikaraste ma phale sukadachanaha. Do your work, do not worry about the fruit of your action, but if you do your work with the most sincerity, then nothing can go wrong at the end of the day. And you might have to escalate the situation, but remember, you are doing this for a good cause. It is better for us to speak up now about this than to have our next of kin in 20, 30 years have to live with the fear of being hated upon, have to live with the fear of being called a Nazi. I remember that in freshman year, I had a swastika on my hand. It's this thing we do for Diwali. So I had a Mehendi swastika on my hand, and I use that as an opportunity to educate people. And now I'm a senior 4 years later, and everyone in my school knows the difference between a swastika and a Hakenkreuz. So that is what I have to say for you all today. Mira, if you have anything else to add?
No, that's about it. But I encourage, again, everyone to speak up. Bring it up, please.
This is the last generation that we have to do this. We're the last generation to have access to Holocaust survivors and to have access to the original records. If it's not us, then it'll never be. Then it'll be too late. And for once too late will actually be too late. Thank you all. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram. Thank you both so much. That was so important. And like you said, yes, the last of the Holocaust survivors will be no more quite soon. So we have access to them now. And it's so inspirational to see young people like you, high schoolers. I know a lot of us who grew up in the West, when we were little, we didn't have older kids like you to look up to a lot of times. And now you have the opportunity to inspire not just your age people and adults, but younger kids who can be like, advocacy is cool. I can do this, at least when I'm a big kid, So it's really great. Thank you so much. And we do have some questions that a lot of them have been addressed in the while people were speaking. Some of our esteemed speakers did speak about those issues. We do have one question I would like to address regarding the issue in Canada. Have you sought help from the Hindu Canadian Defense Minister on this? Rishabh, would you like to take this?
Yeah, I see this question. But before I go to the question, I'm just stealing from, what Abhimanyu's speech just was.
Yeah.
Every time he speaks, I'm just so mesmerized by, by the energy of the youth where they bring, and, Mira's great work, in pushing back. So congratulations to both of you. It just warms our heart.
Absolutely.
And second, I also want to, correct one thing. One of the panelists actually made this that about that swastika trail. Unfortunately, in the pulse link, the officially the name was changed to Holy Trail in 2002, and that was because of the Jewish community's advocacy. And that happened in 2022, and I can guarantee you, if it happened in 2025, we would be able to encourage and persuade Jewish community to not go for it, because that is testament what you see right now in Bill C9 itself. The two of the biggest Jewish advocacy organizations in Canada speak the language what we have been speaking, and this panel has been speaking for last 3 years, and they themselves are doing it. So almost entirety of Jewish community organizations now stand with us on this issue. Now, the question is that, is it possible to have Congress pass a bill making use of swastika hate is illegal, punishable by law? Yes, step by step. We have reached a point here now in 3 years of advocacy that we are very successfully pushing back. But politicians being politicians and lawmakers being lawmakers. You can see that, from the prime minister to the leaders of the opposition party to the biggest third biggest party leaders, all of when they are mentioning about the Nazi symbol, used word swastika and continue, while Jewish community leaders and advocates are correcting themselves, so much so that in Canada might be the first country where the Israeli embassy itself doesn't use the word swastika but uses the hack and cruise. And you will see this happening more because this is a global phenomenon. Globally, across the US and all the Anglo-Saxon countries and English-speaking countries where Hindu advocacy organization and all larger dharmic community organizations are pushing against this narrative. So this is happening. So this happened. So why not the next moment can also happen? As Ragini ji just rightfully mentioned, she is already working, carrying this forward and taking this to the next logical level of this fight. So yeah, all the work is being done to correct this from Bill C9 to the local levels to next level where we can definitely do the same and learn from indigenous experiences and how Vijayji talked about, appropriation of powwow language or many other things in the daily lexicons, which can be corrected. Why not? I just wanted to congratulate Sangeeta ji also. She introduced everybody, but unfortunately, I did not. Sangeeta ji is our Swastika Education and Awareness Coalition's lead here in CoHNA, and she's doing such a wonderful job. And she did such a wonderful job in hosting this panel session as well. So thank you, Sangeeta ji, for the work you do, and many others of our steering committee members. And also, I'm sure all the partnering members here, they also have their own team of the volunteers and partners who help you do this work, what we do.
Thank you so much, Rishabhji, and thank you for all you do. And yes, it's a team effort. Nobody is doing this alone, and we see that it's so important to coalesce on these causes. This is our religious rights, our civil rights, and it's important to speak up now. Some people might say, "Why now? Why this?" The reason is we're here now, so we have to do it because time will not wait for ours to be complete, us to be comfortable with this. It's an uncomfortable topic. A lot of people find a lot of uncomfort in this, even advocates. But that's why we're here. We're all here together. Call it what you want, but don't call it a swastika because that's absolutely the wrong word, right? If they refuse to call it a cross, they can call it a Nazi symbol or whatever. But as we do stand in solidarity with all the victims, but that doesn't mean we suppress ourselves. So we have to stand for our rights and
right,
for all
because
equals, right?
first translation of the Hitler, right, the Mein Kampf to translate into the Hakenkreuz, but yet they translated, the Fucht Cross, but when they refer to the the symbol, there's also the word cross is used, Fucht Cross and cross. So it's actually more with the Hitler symbol is a cross, is the more like a, correct understanding instead of a Hitler's, Hakenkreuz.
Yes,
swastika. So
yeah. Oh, Dr. Ragini ji.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I know CoHNA had a very good 2-pager or something pamphlet.
Yes.
Does Understanding Swastika have a 2-pager or a 1-pager, just, that we can share with, it would be good to not invent our own and have a short, just 2 pages, because I'm going to go and meet the rabbi and Mark Sandler, some important people. I would have liked to give him a 1-page instead of trying to develop my own material to give him. Do you have something like a 2-pager? Please send it to me.
Yes, I'll send that to you, G.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Grandmother Patricia, how are you?
Yes, first I would like to thank you, young people, for your refreshing enthusiasm. And so also, I have a comment to make about intention. There are only 2 intention, destructive and death producing, for those outcomes and those negative consequences. And there is also constructive and life affirming for those outcomes and those collective benefits. And so to comment that the intention for inversing, or we might say it's antithetical to the sacredness of the symbol, that is what I was calling sorcery, because if it's intentional, destructive, and death producing, then that intention is to lead people astray through deception, to enslave people, and also do eugenics, which is genocide.
Yes, that's fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. There's like the benevolence and malevolence juxtaposition, right? Yeah, very interesting.
So, Sangeeta ji, there is one very important question. Sorry to jump
Yes,
in here.
please. Yes.
It is about somebody says that I don't belong to any organization. How do I sign up for the Swastika Proclamation? Would you like to address that, Sangeeta ji? Because I believe this is for the groups to sign.
Okay. Yes. Right now, we're focusing on the groups, the organizations, but we would love to have you within our team in other ways. Right now, the proclamation signing, we're leaving it to the groups and the organizations, the dharmic and indigenous groups. But you can write to us, and perhaps you'd like to donate your time in other ways, and be part of our seva. Please give us your contact information, and we can contact you as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Is there anybody else? Dr. Sureshji, would you like to say
Yes.
Yes.
I'm absolutely thrilled by the presentation of Abhimanyu and Meera.
Yes.
I've noticed over the decades that even those Hindu children that attend Sunday school or organizations of that sort, by the time they reach high school, they lose interest. I think partly because they get very busy with their AP courses and application process, SATs, and all that. But I'm really, really happy. It really warms my heart to see these young people come forward, and I hope the numbers will increase and the education process will continue. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Kudos to them. And like you said, if you start off with the roots are planted when they're very young children, they grow up to be high schoolers like Meera and Abhimanyu, and then grow up to further into college, such as with Riyaji. And yeah, I mean, when the roots are strong, it's harder to knock down the tree, right? So it's wonderful to see that. And I'll do the closing mantra, and then and thank you all for coming. And you're all part of an important team, and so we appreciate you all. Om Hari Om Tachamyoravrinemahe Gatum Yajnaya Gatum Yajnapataye Daivai Swastirastunah Swastirmanushebhyah Urdhvam Jigatu Bheshajam Sham no Astu Dvipade Sham Chatushpade Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. And again, we saw that sacred word, like sacred sound, swasti again. So it's everywhere.